Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Expel Glimmers. Today's deck needs absolutely no introduction, because it's been just about the only deck in the format for almost a year, but the producers insist that someone out there might not know about it yet. To that person living under a rock, I say, ignorance is bliss. I envy you. Stay free, my sweet summer child. Ruby Amethyst has been the control deck since just about day one of the format, thanks to its card draw and removal suite that has gotten more and more flexible as sets went on, being able to adapt to every single meta and still be a valid contender. It's also one of the most budget-friendly competitive decks out there, with a full deck costing under $300 at the time of recording. The only more budget-friendly advantage you can get in Lorcana is to like and subscribe. Just like in its previous iterations, the goal of the deck is to gain tempo by playing characters with immediate impact and removing opposing threats from the board, while slowly gaining an advantage until it can't be stopped anymore. Where the set 4 version varies is that since part of the meta has been a lot slower thanks to the Sapphire control decks, this deck has adapted to be able to have some aggressiveness in its lore management. The key to this faster strategy is Flynn Rider, Frenemy. The sinkable 2-drop has narrow advantage. At the start of your turn, if you have a character in play with more strength than each opposing character, you gain 3 lore. When the Sapphire decks take 2, 3, 4 turns of setup to ramp, this is a key component of putting an early pressure on them. And to make sure that the pressure stays on turn 3, the deck can drop Sisu, Emboldened Warrior, a 1/4 dragon with the ability Surge of Power, that says this character gets +1 strength for each card in opponent's hand. Then, the deck draws advantage from the bounce package, powered by the Mims and Merlins, before winning either by outvaluing the opponent and bouncing Merlin Goats, or by putting down and defending the Queen's Castle until reaching the critical 20 lore. Almost everything else in the deck either serves as card draw or removal, and seeks to keep the tempo in favor of the Ruby Amethyst player. Let's jump right into the games with Alexandru Tibirna and see it in action. So in this matchup against Amethyst Emerald, there we go.
So Amethyst Emerald, we mentioned in other videos, is the more aggressive deck of the meta right now. You would expect that probably it would go under the Ruby Amethyst deck, but I feel that the deck really shines in this matchup. It has a lot of good ways just to deal 1-for-1 with everything that the aggro deck throws at it.
And that Flynn can be a real nightmare for the Amethyst Emerald deck. So
all the creatures are just so small that you will just garner some incidental lore while just playing your game. You have the Sisu that just synergizes really, really well with the Flynn Rider. And also you have the Maui that's just ginormous.
And here we already see it. Ursula coming down, only 1 strength. So that Flynn is already going to gain 3 lore. First turn on the board. And he's going to be followed up by other big threats right away. So
yeah, you could immediately go into that Sisu and just start your engine from there. We also see here that a Brawl was added to hand, which might be interesting to just throw at one of the characters that are already there.
Which the Maui and brawling the Pegasus.
Which is what we decide to do, because here it lets us have the Flynn as an engine.
For sure, because the shifted Pegasus is now no longer an option. If they want to remove the Ursula to shift a Fox, it doesn't add to their board much. So, no, really a good tempo move. And here we see Flynn Rider being inked and the Crab coming down for no value outside of just preventing those 3 lore. So, definitely a tempo play here for the Ruby Amethyst.
Yeah, that's that kind of mini game going on where you try and have the biggest character on board. Here we see Merlin Goat, which again, develops the lore really nicely. The synergy between these two cards is really good. I feel that the Flynn is referred as the weakest link in the deck by some people, but also I feel it's the most synergistic card.
Yeah, and here we see the opponent singing Friends on the Other Side, picking up 2 cards, trying to find an answer. Because at this time, yeah, they have to send in the Fox just to prevent the goat from going wild on the lore again.
And that's the thing now. In hand for the Ruby Amethyst player, you have all the best options with now that goat. You have
Now 2 foxes.
2 foxes. I think one will go in the inkwell and try, and maybe we'll try to have that castle going.
Maybe. Yeah, that definitely looks to be what's going on here. So Queen's Castle, sending the Mim Fox on it, and just telling the opponent, you go and answer that.
Do your worst. For sure, there's the crab still in hand that can be replayed, and we can use the fox to just take out the castle right away. But that's still a turn where we decided to do as such.
Here we see 4 damage, bouncing the fox to put a snake, bringing back the fox,
Okay, so
and then sending it back into the castle.
okay, so we're doing it in a little bit more steps with developing a snake instead of developing a crab.
Yep. And gives the crab for later.
Well, the crab is one of the really good surprises, I feel, of the deck, of the Emerald Amethyst deck. You're just saying like, oh, my things are really small. They're just there to probably gain the lore, but now they're also very effective at challenging.
Yeah. And now we see the fox coming out, taking out the fox, and that goat still being there, bigger than the snake. So now it's back to, can you be bigger than 4? And here the rabbit probably won't do that.
Yeah, so here we're still back on that Flynn plan that, as I was mentioning, really synergistic with the rest of the deck. Also, there's a rabbit in hand also for Ruby Amethyst that might as well start getting the ball rolling.
So here we see another Friends being cast for full cost. As a Amethyst Emerald player, you really don't want to be behind on lore at that stage of the game, stuck on nothing, facing threats like the Flynn here. So already taking that 3 lore, bringing it up to 8 versus 1.
This is a really good position for the Ruby Amethyst deck. As I was saying, I feel this is where the deck shines the most.
Yep, and here we see the Medusa coming down, taking up the snake.
We're just assuring that we keep something on the board that has force strength. So even if the goat would be banished by, let's say, bouncing that rabbit with a fox, well,
here Ursula showing that rabbit, nothing to discard. And here come Cusco.
an oldie but a goodie.
Yeah. Temperamental Emperor.
Well, a goodie. Some people really don't like that card. They still have some kind of bad memories from set number 1 where Cusco was an absolute menace to any board it landed on.
Yeah, it was a good finisher for the aggro matchup. And here we see the Queen's Castle coming back down. The goat being sent to it. Same thing with Madame Medusa. Not enough power right now on board to remove it on the Emerald player side. So let's see if they can figure it out.
At this point of the game, it's so dangerous. Like, Flynn can gain 3 lore. The castle gains 2. That's 5 lore right there. And we could just quest with everything if the other player doesn't manage.
Yeah, that's lethal on board right now.
Yeah. I just hope that the Emerald player can find something to get this, to just prolong this game a bit.
They find their own goat. Might be, well, will prevent the Flynn from activating.
That's 3 lores saved right there.
And quite an aggressive, questing on their end as well, bringing it up to 8 thanks to Cusco.
Well, there's no use in going into the castle right now, just because there's not enough strength on that board to take
might
it
as
out
well
in
try
one
to
fell
raise.
swoop.
Here we see the goat.
Yeah, I see a snake there, so it's probably close to the end.
Yeah.
18. Well,
Seventeen.
we're going to 18 with
18,
the
yeah, 18 with the goat. And then 19 playing back the goat.
putting it back in the castle.
Where it
And
belongs.
yep. So here it's probably just the end here. There's some nice racing power on the emerald side, but I think it was little too late.
14, 15, 16 here. Maybe bouncing the goat. Yeah. Bring it up to 16. Playing it back over to 17.
Maybe one other bounce.
Like the snake could maybe do it to 18, but that won't be enough. Yeah, and we see the handshake there. So
Yeah.
really was a close one.
Yeah. That's the thing with Cusco. Like I feel it's a very interesting finisher, but it's uninkable. It's quite small. It doesn't do a great job in threatening location.
Yeah. But still, very interesting match here, showing the very real circumstances I faced in my first Ursula challenge with this deck against Ruby Amethyst.
Well, that's the thing. Every Emerald Amethyst player is telling me, "Oh, I feel my matchup against Ruby Amethyst is quite good." I'm just like, I think you have some love goggles on, because the Ruby Amethyst deck has a lot of good ways to be as aggressive as you, just keeping up with you and smashing their bigger characters into your smaller characters and just not letting any tempo drop.
Yeah, but we saw it here. Like, it's a Flynn game, and it worked well.
Exactly.
Here we have the control matchup. So, Ruby Amethyst versus Ruby Sapphire.
I would say this is kind of the bread and butter of the deck. This is what you want to be playing all day. Almost. I don't want to, like... You want a bit of variety in your tournament, but if you want to just stack up some wins...
Especially here, we see Flynn Rider and Sisu already in hand. What better start do you want for this matchup?
Especially it being against Blue-Red, I think this is going to be a short game for Blue-Red.
Alright, so let's see how that shapes up.
You have a very nice curve here where you just go Flynn into Sisu and just go from there.
Yeah, because they're not going to do much for 2 or 3 turns, especially Blue-Red. They don't have that Mr. Smee on turn 2. Some of them are playing Scuttle, which is not going to do much in that matchup either.
And just expressing a bit of my own opinions, Scuttle just stinks. Really, it is very reminiscent of a card we've seen in another game that was doing the exact same effect, and it was really, really bad. And I think it's really, really similar to that particular card. It doesn't do much. It will find you an item once in a while. But
here, a turn 2, that's Popsicle and Ice Block, so definitely some items starting to roll.
yeah,
On the Sapphire side,
we're,
here the Flynn Rider coming down.
we have some food for the Flower Shack.
Yep.
So here we're gonna try and offset this slow start on the Blue-Red side with the Fishbone Quill.
Yep.
So
Flynn gaining the 3 lore for being the most powerful character on board.
also the other thing is, like, there are quite a few cards in hand for Ruby Sapphire, so that Sisu is just really massive right now.
Yep, and they're questing with the Flynn.
We're gonna even start doing some shenanigans on the next turn. We see
Yeah,
a
here-
rabbit, we see a goat, we see a Maui that just ensures that we stay with the biggest character on board.
6 in here. the Medusa taking down the Sisu because they probably don't have much cards in hand, which for a Sapphire deck is not what they want to be doing.
Exactly. It should have been like exactly on the spot where the Sisu drops to 3 strength and is able to be targeted.
Yep.
So now
Here, inking the second Sisu and playing the rabbit, keeping that hand full.
not really caring about the effect on the Flynn. What we want to be doing here is really just burying the control player in card advantage.
Yeah, because if they have to answer the threats, they're not developing their own game plan.
Here it's very nice to see that we have a brawl in hand to be able to deal with that Flaversham that will not be able to quest and draw many more cards from its questing ability.
Yep. As much as Flaversham is already paying for itself when he comes down, as a Sapphire player, you don't want to see him go like the turn he's played. Same thing for your Quill. You don't want to see destroyed the turn it's played. So
You generally have a plan for it.
oftentimes includes getting to 5, 6, 7 ink. So yeah.
Also, the other thing, we were talking about that brawl for the Flaversham. We also have Madame Medusa.
Yep.
Which is...
But only for ink, so
Yeah.
it's probably going to be Brawl this turn.
Yeah, we want to be brawling it this turn. We picked up a Chernobog's follower to develop the board even more.
Yep. Here taking down, questing with the rabbit.
Oh, actually
singing friends on the other side with the rabbit. So continuing that card advantage.
That's the thing. Here, the deck...
Here playing the snake to bring back the rabbit.
Here what we see is that the Ruby Amethyst player is just kind of burying the Sapphire player in value, making their be prepared very, very bad.
Yeah, it's not Sapphire Steel that's going to wheel you with a whole new world, so you can go all in on the card advantage here.
Oh, yeah.
Here, Grammatala just replacing herself in the end, offering some card selection.
Developing the hand instead of the brain. Just me referring to that ability that is exactly the same as develop your brain,
Yep.
but on a 3/3 body.
Sapphire does have a few of those. Sisu from set 2 also comes to mind, who has that ability.
A repeatable develop your brain.
Yep.
On quest.
So here, quite a full hand once again, still 7 cards.
And here what's interesting again is like the hand is so good that it's almost tempting to deploy a be prepare of their own on the Ruby Amethyst side. Not quite there on ink yet, but it's possible.
Definitely his, but here we're going to see Madame Medusa taking out the Grammatala, just forcing the Sapphire player out of singers and resources and forcing them to just top deck every turn.
The other thing is now that Madame Medusa cannot really quest anymore on the Sapphire side because it's just a clean trade and we turn back on that Flynn Rider.
Ooh. Here we see the dragon, only spot that's still being played somewhat frequently is in that Sapphire list.
Yeah, here we're going to deploy the Be Prepared as I mentioned because it's a really good time to be doing
There's
it.
a dragon on the board. I mean, at some point you need an answer.
Always got to be prepared for the dragon. So, but here we see a quite nice hand on the Ruby Amethyst player side. You have a goat, you have a rabbit, you have a snake, you have a Maui. So you have really answers for almost anything. You can either press the aggression, you can press the card advantage, you can remove anything with your big body. What
So let's see
will
how
it be?
goes. Oh, Merlin Goat.
Oh, we're immediately going for the winning line here. We're
Yep.
racing towards the finish. So
Playing a
Chernobog.
Chernobog's follower, ensuring we're going to have repeatable card draw. Well, not repeatable, but card draw next turn. And inking think
The
it was the
Maui.
Maui, yeah.
The Maui. So here we'll have a card from the Chernobog follower. We'll have more cards from the Merlin. But here we see one of the big problems for the deck to deal with. It's a Tamatoa, which has infinite willpower. Quite literally infinite.
Yeah. As far as Ruby's concerned, it might just as well be infinite. But, there's card draw, and being undisputed when you only have one character on board is gonna remove it no matter how big it is.
Yeah, this was quite a nice line. And here we decide to go for the card advantage with a rabbit, feeling that we might, if the Sapphire player is in range of playing those really big threats like the dragon, like the Tamatoa, we need to be keeping the ball rolling in hand.
Yeah. And here, 2 more card draw effects plus the goat. So definitely not stopping the draw anytime soon. And here we see Maui coming down.
Yeah.
And the Ruby Sapphire player clearly cheating, call a judge someone. Only put 2 damage on the Maui for that snake, which is a 3/3.
Isn't there an ice block there tapped?
Oh, there might be an ice block. That might explain it.
Okay, yeah. So that's what I seem to see on the board there. That's why it only took 2 damage.
Definitely explains a lot of things.
Yeah, I think it was just like tapped before the challenge. Just the sequencing was a bit off on it, which might create some like litigious situations between players. But we saw that in the set championship just last weekend on our part, where is the ice block used when does the big Sisu for 8 is played. So it's always a good thing to be really clean about your play, to be able to announce what you're doing.
Yep, always be clear in what you're doing. Always communicate more than less. And if you have any questions, call a judge. They're going to be able to answer. And here we see Ice Block and Big Sisu taking out
the whole board. Just the whole board at this point.
Being able to slowly climb back up with that 3 questing power, as well as the one from Madame Medusa. So definitely there's a need for an answer on the Ruby Amethyst side here.
Yeah, here we have a quite interesting hand where we can just deploy probably a Maui. That's what I was about to say. So we're going to force the Maui on the other side to just ram into it.
And the interesting thing with Maui is that even with the ice block, he's still a 5 strength character. So he still takes out a reciprocating Maui.
Exactly. It's always going to trade. The only way it doesn't trade is in some really niche spots. If you remember the card, the Queen Commanding Presence.
Yep.
Generally in Steel Song.
Yeah, or the Kida that we've seen in some aggressive lists that can remove 3 power.
Sure. That really takes off some gas off the Maui.
So here, 11-6, which is not the lead you want to have against Sapphire, given the big upswings they can have. But here, Queen's Castle coming down, Maleficent coming down, and Being Undisputed being sung. So, and then everyone going into the castle.
Just establishing a very nice position. Really commanding a be prepared on the Sapphire side. To be able to deal with that kind of advantage, which they obviously had, given all the cards they're drawing at all points of the game.
Yep, and here's second Fishbone Quill preparing for that Tamatoa to be able to have his big turn once he comes down.
Or even some food for a late Flaversham.
Yeah. Here, Chernobog just being played so that the snake can come down, and then the Chernobog coming back. And everyone going back to the castle.
You see here we have 2 Be Prepared in hand for Ruby Amethyst, which is quite interesting. It's at this point you don't even care for it being such a big removal. You can just aggressively deploy it against one threat at a time to be sure to keep the board clean.
Especially with the castle being down like this.
Exactly, you're just protecting the castle at this point. It's exactly what the Ruby Amethyst player is deciding on doing. Just trying to go for that win with the castle alone.
Yep, and there it is.
There you go.
There.
So I think the Queen's Castle is really the game changer in this deck since it was printed in set number 3.
Mm-hmm.
So that card is just immense value. It has a lot of willpower on its own. It draws cards, and it wins games.
Yeah,
so
certainly does.
So it's just really a card that's I'll call it the glue in the deck. It's really efficiently costed at 4, where you can just play it on 4 and have it gain lore on an empty board, or you can drop it on turn 5 after playing something like a rabbit that already drew you a card. Put the rabbit in, and then just like it's card drop party.
Yep.
So this is the kind of plays that really generate a lot of value, and in those kind of decks that have a lot of answers that are very well rounded and have really good all around play style, it just enables them to find those answers. Because people will say, "Oh, they always have it." I said so myself about Ruby Sapphire with that Be Prepared. They always have it. Well, it's not that they always have it. They just draw so many cards that they're
bound to find it.
Yeah, they end up seeing it at some point. So that's how they can shape games in their advantage.
Yeah. And here we see what most would call the premier matchup of the set championships. The Ruby Amethyst versus Emerald Steel.
Yeah, this is really your typical matchup that you'll see. These are the 2 non-Sapphire decks of the metagame faring against each other. I feel here that Emerald Steel is just a bit favored in this spot for having played this matchup a whole lot and very rarely losing it.
Yeah, I know the good Ruby Amethyst players I know consider this their bad matchup.
Yeah.
Like the God Draw on Emerald Steel is definitely not what you want to have.
Oh, yeah. Well, I say that this is the very good matchup, and if you remember, and if you know me a bit, this is what I lose to on coverage in top 8 in Atlanta. So
you didn't have any Diablos back then, though.
Sure, I didn't have Diablos. I didn't have such strong starts. But still, I feel that I want to say the matchup is unwinnable for Ruby Amethyst's side. The big card you want to have in this matchup is Be Prepared. Be Prepared is huge because it's so good at clearing up all of the board of really good Floodborns. It also prevents Emerald Steel from just overextending into really good characters with Bucky that will attack the hand really efficiently.
For sure. That squirrel is doing a lot of work. And now here we see like a good developed board for Emerald Steel already with the Robin that is a shift target, as well as the Bucky. You can expect a shift character to come down.
Exactly. We could shift a Robin Hood on 3. We could play a Diablo. We could play, a Aladdin.
Yep.
So anything is fair game here.
So now banishing the Churnabox follower, inking the Flynn, and deciding to brawl the Robin Hood, preventing the shift, assuming that this is where the line was going.
And this is quite interesting. because the Chernobog's Follower is a really good expression of where the metagame is nowadays, that you need to keep your hand up early on. The Chernobog Follower kind of does an impression of Popsicle or Fortisphere.
Yep, to a degree. And here we see the Diablo coming down, making discard the Maleficent. And then the Sudden Chill being sung. So really attacking the hand aggressively.
Yeah, backup Sudden Chill is really, really great here.
And here in Kingdom Maui, taking out a rabbit, picking up a Flynn.
Yeah, what the Ruby Amethyst player is trying to do here is just keep their hand high enough to be able to protect some of the key pieces so that they don't fall behind or fall prey to having an empty hand, drawing into some uncastable cards such as Be Prepared. If you see a Be Prepared here, you're really, really sad.
Yeah, be prepared when you only have 5 ink and nothing else in hand is definitely not what you want to see in here. Let the Storm Rage on the rabbit just to draw a card and exert that Diablo.
Yeah, probably searching for another Floodborn, which is Jafar Dreadnought.
So here, only 2 cards in hand left, the Fox and the Friends.
I think here what we can do, well, the really weird thing is we can draw a lot of cards, but we can also give a lot of cards due to that Diablo.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen here, trying to find answers and keep that hand stuck.
Because we can also bounce the rabbit, but I don't think this is the premier play here. Well, I don't know.
The other option is to play the castle. That ink is really limited right now. So yeah, here we see the bounce.
Yeah.
And that Emerald Steel player really filling their hand.
Yeah, but the thing is, with that exerted rabbit, the Jafar was a big threat in just removing it from the castle.
Yeah.
So this is where it was really hard. At least now we have quite a sizable hand, and we found the Be Prepared I was talking about, that we have to just ink as much as we can to be able to cast that Be Prepared and clear off the board, clear off any potential threats that can run out with the game.
Here we see a Baboom in the ink and a second Bucky coming down.
Yeah, 2 squirrels, that's never good to see.
And here the Aladdin forcing 2 discards. Just going to take the rabbit and the castle, which is the only available ink in the hand right now, as well as the strength taking out the snake. So
yeah, I think what we're trying to do here is having the Medusa just kill the Diablo, which is the best you can hope for to stop that massive card draw.
But still a fairly slow play in that regards.
Oh, for sure.
Here we have the 6th ink coming down, that Medusa arriving, removing the Diablo.
And the only thing we can wish for is no Floodborn on next turn to be able to rip out this Inkable, the last Inkable to Be Prepared.
But at the amount of cards that they drew, it's fairly unlikely. Oh, that's almost worse. from a pride perspective.
Oh yeah, it's insult to injury.
And here that backup Diablo coming down.
Ugh, that's a big board. Big board.
And here, not even caring about the Buckies anymore. That Medusa can only take 1. That hand's not gonna get refilled anytime soon.
Chernobog's Follower would have been good with that Be Prepared in hand, but I don't see. Going to remove the Dreadnought, probably a good idea. Putting down the Chernobog. Putting down the Chernobog is interesting. I would have probably... Well, I say I would have probably. That's me playing the Ruby Amethyst deck. It was a fine decision either to ink it or not, to try and find the Be Prepared. That's where you get punished if you decide not to ink the Chernobog.
Yeah, but also like gives you an actual second card draw on your turn, which might be the turning point that you need, because you're not going to win on 1 card a turn with that deck.
For sure. And also, well, you could have the argument of it can try and challenge some stuff. Maybe if the Buckies were turned sideways again, but that's not
Here the Medusa crushing herself into Aladdin. Sad Beast on the board, making his appearance, banishing the Churnabox follower to draw an extra card. And here just playing the big Sisu and inking the snake.
Big Sisu not looking too bad here with the Diablo that's drawing a lot of cards, and the Beast drawing a lot of cards. So it's still quite a threat, but
it's definitely a big Sisu. And here we see Strength to a Raging Fire as if nothing mattered.
yeah, I think the writing's on the wall here. Green Steel doing just exactly what it wants to be doing.
I mean, still one Be Prepared away from equalizing the board, but their hand is still fuller than Ruby Amethyst at this point.
It's massive. They're gonna draw another card from the Diablo next turn. They still have that Beast if it goes uninsert. Just keep on drawing cards.
Overextending a little bit against a deck that can draw Be Prepared. Not punished in this case.
Yeah.
And pretty much just trying to push lethal.
Yeah. Here we're probably gonna take care of that Diablo, but it's not a great spot.
Yep. There we see it. The Brawl taking out the Diablo. Trying to stop the bleeding, inking that Maleficent, because she's not going to be here next turn anyways, most likely.
Yeah.
The Bee's drawing an extra card. Here, questing with everything up to 19. All that's missing is a goat.
Well, a goat in a non-purple deck.
Oh, true. I'm so used to 19 spelling the end with a goat, but no, here...
No, it would have been on the other side.
Yeah.
But when we were talking that this matchup is so popular in set championships and local events is also the relative low cost of Ruby Amethyst. It's probably one of the cheapest decks in the game. Well, cheapest competitive decks.
It is the cheapest meta deck, right? Like out there right now.
Yeah. Well, whilst the Emerald Steel deck whilst the Emerald Steel deck you saw here was probably one of the most expensive ones.
I think it has to be the most expensive with the
by far.
Yeah, with the Diablos, the Robins, the Beasts, like those are all really expensive.
You have Ursula, Deceiver of All.
Deceiver of All. Too.
Yeah, you're playing just like you play the costliest cards in all the game into one neat package. Whilst on the side of Ruby Amethyst, the bigger cards are what? You have Maui.
Yeah, they're like $12, $12 to $15. You have Maui, you have the Castle, you have to Be Prepared.
And that's it, right?
Yeah, because a lot of the power cards are either rares, if we're talking about the Rabbit or the Fox, or commons and uncommons for the rest of the bounce package. The Maleficents, Turn the Box Follower is a cheap rare. Like it's a really inexpensive deck.
And the other thing is, people tend to just have the cards from previous sets. Like the deck has changed a lot, has transformed with time. But the only really new card here, well, of notice is Flynn Rider, Frenemy, which is like a $5 card.
Yeah, and Brawl, which is a common.
Brawl, and we can say King in Undisputed, which is one of the key cards to deal with big characters and with Bucky.
Yeah, but you can still trade it for a Lady Tremaine if you don't have them that are fairly less expensive.
Exactly, both are uninkable. One is a song, which is really a good tempo play in general.
Yep.
But
it's a better tool. But same thing, someone not having the Mauis can play the new Hercules, which is a 7-3.
A 7-3.
Yeah. but still has that rush effect for 5, although being uninkable. So, but it's a budget deck that can be even more budget friendly if you need to.
Exactly. You can really like start to build it with like only a few dollars, maybe even under $100, and just get there. Because the final product is what, under 200?
Yeah, give or take.
So yeah, if you're looking to start playing Lorcana competitively, that is, this is probably the starting point. This is probably where you want to look at in the beginning of your Lorcana career.
Yeah, and you could even replace like 1 or 2 other castle with some Sorcerer's Spellbook from set 2 for a lot cheaper. They're not going to be as efficient, but it's an easy way to get that last bit of lore that you might need at the end of the game.
Yeah, that's it. Like, the previous technology is just good enough to still be around